Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CISSP Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the ISC Squared CISSP exam with focused explanations and practical context. In this episode, we are diving into the core building blocks of every structured cybersecurity program: security policies, standards, procedures, and guidelines. These elements may not involve complex tools or cutting-edge technologies, but they are absolutely foundational to effective cybersecurity governance. Without them, even the best technical defenses fall short due to confusion, inconsistency, or lack of alignment with organizational priorities. As a future certified information systems security professional, you must understand how these components work individually and how they come together to form a strong, consistent framework. Security policies define expectations. Standards enforce uniformity. Procedures provide clarity. Guidelines encourage best practices. Together, they help ensure that every action taken in support of cybersecurity is informed, aligned, and repeatable. Let us begin with security policies. A security policy is a high-level document that outlines an organization's overall security requirements, goals, and intentions. These policies reflect the leadership's vision and are often tied closely to the organization's risk tolerance, legal obligations. Policies serve as the top layer of the security governance hierarchy. They do not explain how to configure a firewall or how to handle a virus alert. Instead, they describe what the organization values, what it wants to protect, and what it expects employees to do in general terms. For example, a password policy might state that all employees must use strong, unique passwords that are changed regularly. It does not need to specify the minimum number of characters or which complexity rules apply. That comes later in the standards and procedures. These policies are typically approved by senior executives or board-level leadership because they shape the strategic direction of the security program. They should be clear, concise, and broad enough to apply across departments, technologies, and business units. However, they must also be reviewed and updated regularly. The threat landscape is constantly changing, so are business goals, staffing structures, and regulatory environments. A policy that made sense 5 years ago may now be outdated or insufficient. Security policies also serve as a reference point for auditing, enforcement, and accountability. When an employee violates a security rule, it is often the policy that is cited as the basis for discipline or retraining. For this reason, policies must be communicated clearly, supported by training, and accessible to everyone in the organization. Now let us move to security standards. While policies explain what needs to happen, standards define how that requirement is enforced uniformly. Standards are detailed, mandatory rules that support policies by outlining technical and operational requirements. These might include system configurations, encryption protocols, or acceptable software lists. For example, if the organization's policy requires secure communication, the corresponding standard might state that all external web traffic must use Transport Layer Security version 1.3 or higher. If the policy requires endpoint protection, the standard might specify which antivirus tools must be installed, how often updates must occur, and what scanning frequency is required. Standards ensure consistency across the organization. Without them, each department might interpret policy differently, leading to a patchwork of security practices that are hard to manage or audit. Uniform standards make it easier to deploy controls, detect anomalies, and comply with regulations. They also reduce risk by eliminating ambiguity and closing the gaps where human error or inconsistent behavior can creep in. Security standards must be kept current. Cyber threats evolve quickly, and standards that were once best practice can become obsolete. For example, older encryption algorithms like Secure Hash Algorithm 1 are now considered insecure, and standards must be updated to reflect modern protocols. This is why security teams must work closely with subject matter experts and stay informed about changes in technology and threat intelligence. Next, let us explore security procedures. Procedures are the detailed, step-by-step instructions for executing security tasks. Where policies set the goal and standards define the boundaries, procedures explain exactly how to get the job done. Procedures are used by IT staff, security analysts, system administrators, and even non-technical employees to ensure that routine security tasks are performed consistently and correctly. They might describe how to onboard a new employee, configure access controls, investigate a phishing email, or escalate a suspected data breach. Effective procedures are specific, clear, and actionable. They often include screenshots, command line inputs, or decision trees to help the person performing the task succeed with minimal guesswork. Procedures should also identify roles and responsibilities. Who is allowed to perform the task? Who must approve the outcome? What systems are involved? Regular training is essential to make sure staff know how to follow procedures. This includes initial instruction during onboarding, periodic refresher training, and updates when the procedure changes. A well-written procedure is worthless if no one reads or understands it. Procedures must also evolve. Changes in systems, software, staffing, or regulations can affect how a task should be performed. Incident reviews, test results, and audit findings can also reveal flaws in procedures that must be corrected. Procedures are living documents that must be maintained with care. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Now let us talk about security guidelines. Unlike policies, standards, or procedures, guidelines are not mandatory. Instead, they provide helpful advice, recommended practices, and additional context that can support decision-making. Guidelines are flexible, allowing employees to apply best practices even when rigid rules do not apply. For example, while a procedure might specify exactly how to encrypt a database, a guideline might offer suggestions for securing sensitive data in cloud environments. Another guideline might outline safe behaviors for remote work, secure software development tips, or ways to handle portable media securely. The benefit of guidelines is that they promote awareness and support good security behavior without being overly prescriptive. They are especially useful in areas where user judgment plays a role or where the situation is too dynamic for hard rules. Guidelines should be based on current best practices and industry standards. They should be updated as new threats emerge and technologies evolve. While they are not enforced the way policies and standards are, they still shape the security culture of the organization. The more useful and practical your guidelines are, the more likely people are to follow them voluntarily. Let us now discuss how all four elements, policies, standards, procedures, and guidelines work together. When integrated properly, they create a complete and coherent security framework. Policies provide the high-level vision, standards enforce consistent technical expectations, procedures ensure repeatable, accurate execution, and guidelines support smart, informed behavior. For this framework to work, all documentation must be clear, accessible, and regularly maintained. Employees need to know where to find the information, how to interpret it, and what to do if they have questions. It should not take detective work to understand your organization's password policy or how to report a security incident. Regular training and awareness programs reinforce this understanding. These programs help employees understand the why behind the rules and build a culture where security is seen as a shared responsibility rather than a burden. Effective communication is another critical factor. Announcements about updated policies, explanations of new standards, and walkthroughs of key procedures help bridge the gap between documentation and action. People are far more likely to follow the rules when they understand their purpose. Feedback is also important. Security teams should regularly ask for input from users. Are the procedures practical? Are the standards realistic? Are the policies still relevant? This feedback helps refine the framework and ensures it remains effective and aligned with business needs. The ultimate goal of integrating policy standards, procedures, and guidelines is to create a secure, resilient, and well-governed organization. Each element supports the others. Each plays a role in educating users, guiding actions, enforcing expectations, and minimizing risk. As a CISSP, your job is not just to understand these elements. You must also be able to help build, maintain, and promote them across your organization. Thank you for joining the CISSP Prepcast by Bare Metal Cyber. Visit baremetalcyber.com for additional episodes comprehensive CISSP resources, and personalized certification support. Deepen your understanding of security policies, standards, procedures, and guidelines, and we'll keep supporting your journey towards CISSP certification success.